Hey guys, it's Bear here with Journey to Preparedness, helping you prepare not for your doomsday, but your everyday. So this is podcast number 37 video version, and on this week's podcast we talked about quick growing vegetables for your survival gardens with this whole COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, coronavirus, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, this safer at home quarantine. A lot of people have been getting into like survival gardening and, thinking about, end times, what could possibly happen, trying to grow their own vegetables and stuff like that. Well, the truth is that a lot of these vegetables that you're going to grow, they obviously aren't instant turnaround. You're not going to put a seed in the ground and tomorrow have a plant, and there are some that take a lot longer than others. So kind of what we went over in the podcast was quick turnaround, some of the faster growing vegetables that you can have that will help enhance, or not enhance, but will help, speed up the process of getting your own food and not have to wait so long for like tomatoes and things like that. So I'm going to go over a few of them here briefly, just kind of quickly, give you a little bit of a rundown of some of the quicker vegetables. And if you want more in-depth detail and a longer list, go listen to the podcast. It's available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. Or you can go directly to journeytopreparedness.net and listen right from the website. Podcast number 37, quick turnaround vegetables for your survival garden. All right, so let's get into the list. All right, so one of the main things, one of the first items, one of the quickest turnaround items on your list is going to be your leafy green vegetables. Things like arugula, mustard greens, some of your salad greens. You're looking at, sorry, I got a list down here. I tried to bring it up a little bit so I'm not looking down too much here, but mustard greens, you're looking at baby size 21 days. Full size, you're looking at 45 days. If you're getting into some of your, like butter lettuces and butter crunch lettuce, you're looking at, your butter crunch, you're looking at 28 days for baby size and roughly 45 days for full size. 55 days for some of your other lettuces, your salanova lettuce and things like that. Kale, you're looking at 25 days baby size and 50 to 60 days, depending on whether it's a curly kale or white or red Russian kale. There are others that are much longer durations, but your white and red Russian kales or your curly kales tend to be the quickest there. So a lot of those greens, some pak choys. If you're into like stir fries and things like that, pak choy is a really quick turnaround. 50 days to maturity for those. Spinach is roughly 40 to 65 days, so that's a pretty quick turnaround crop there, and it's a good healthy leafy green that's full of nutrients for you. So one thing that we don't typically talk about a lot in America here is a mizuna. Excuse me. And that's a Japanese mustard green, and it's kind of mild in flavor, but it is quick turnaround crop. It's about 21 days for baby size, 40 days for full size, and it's a cut and come again. So you cut it and it'll grow back. So you can get a few cuttings out of that one plant. So, and again, 21 days for baby size, 40 days for full size. I mean, that's a pretty quick turnaround. In under a month, you can be eating that. And that, and there are other things that you can get, quicker turnarounds. Radishes are really quick. Turnips aren't too bad. Broccoli, it varies depending on. One of the main things we talked about was zucchini. And I don't know if you've ever planted zucchini, but the first time we ever planted zucchini, I will tell you that I knew nothing about it. The first time I ever planted in a garden, and I planted probably, I think we had like 6-8 plants, zucchini plants growing, and man, it was ridiculous the amount of zucchini we got. I mean, it was never ending. It was like every day we'd go out there and pick zucchini, and we'd have something that we thought, oh, that big, normal size you get at a grocery store. And the next day I go out there and they'd be like that big. And I'm like, where did this thing come from? How did we not see that? It was just like they were just coming out of nowhere. It never ended. And I learned at that time that you get a ton of zucchini off of one plant and you don't need to plant that many because of the amount you get, but it is a quicker turnaround crop. Now you can get into some other things like sprouts and microgreens. Those are quick turnaround. Sprouts, you're talking 7 days-ish. Microgreens, typically, a lot of them you can get in like 14 days. And those are great too. A little different way. Those you can actually do with sprouts you can do right on your counter in a mason jar. Microgreens do very little light, and they don't really need light till later on in the growing. Towards the end, the last couple days, just kind of green them up. So those are great options for not needing a lot of light and not needing a lot of space. If you want to get into those and get yourself some nutrient, rich foods that you're growing on your own. So sprouts and microgreens are great options to be quick turnaround crops. Obviously quicker than a lot of these. Some of them, you can get a little bit quicker on if you try different methods like the Kratky hydroponics, which is basically just setting up you can do it in a mason jar, you can do it in a Tupperware container, you can do it whatever, anything that'll hold water you can do it in. And all you're doing is putting your solution in there, your nutrient solution, which is full of like your whatever fertilizer you're using. I have been starting, and I've been using the Maxi Grow. Just on Amazon, it comes in a bag. It's got a little scoop in there. It tells you, how much per gallon, and you just kind of fill your container up. Put a little net pot in it. If you cut a hole in the lid, put a net pot in there. Start your seed, and once that seed grows, it basically it sucks up all that nutrients and that water out of there, and then that's where you get your air gap, so your roots don't rot inside there, and it'll grow, and it'll let that grow up, and it's working great. I'll give a video update on that later on once it gets more developed and stuff like that. I'll give you guys a video on how I put that together. It's super simple, and that's just little grow lights. Doesn't have to be anything extravagant. You're not spending thousands of dollars on grow lights. In fact, the ones I bought, I got 6 2-foot LED strip grow lights for $50-$60, something like that, maybe. I don't remember what it was exactly. I think it was $60. So basically $10 a piece is what it came down to. And they work awesome. And they've been working great. So you could be growing just like that. And you can grow all of these salad greens right on there. Some other quick turnaround ones were, peas and beans. You're looking at a lot of your peas are 50 to 60 days-ish. Your bush beans, like green beans and stuff like that, you're looking about 50, 60 days as well on those. So again, those are pretty quick turnaround when you're talking, from seed to harvest, as opposed to like tomatoes and things like that. It's a lot longer growing season. These are things you can get going right away, and you can at least get yourself something edible that you're growing yourself quickly for your survival garden. This is, hey, I need something. Obviously, it's not an immediate return on your investment, but it is something that is going to quickly turn around for you and give you some nutrient-rich foods that you can have, that you grew yourself and not had to risk going out and getting sick by going to the store, if that's what your fear is. And again, this quarantine is going to end soon. This safer at home, I believe, is going to end soon. We'll be back to normal life shortly, but that doesn't mean that there won't be another one. And so anything you can do now, and anything you can do now to better prepare yourself for the next one, is only going to benefit you next time. All right. Again, there's a lot more on the list that I went through, and I went through a lot more in depth on the podcast. So don't forget to listen to it. Download it on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. Subscribe to the podcast. That way it automatically downloads for you each week. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, and that way, you'll get to see anytime we put up a new video. If you hit the bell, that way then you'll get notifications anytime a new video comes up. So each week I'll be putting these out just to give you a little bit of an insight of what the podcast is. If you don't want to take the time to listen to the full podcast, they're about 40 minutes to an hour-ish each. But they go in a lot more detail about all these topics that we're talking about here. So, till next time, this has been Bear with Journey to Preparedness, helping you prepare not only for your doomsday, but your everyday. Peace.